Hey everyone, welcome to the program WRSA Radio. I am your host, Grenadier1. As always, I hope you're having a good week. It's been kind of a fun one for me. This week I had a chance to interview Chris Muir from the cartoon strip Day by Day. I will be putting that show out the last week of the month, as that week I'm going to have some family in town and be on vacation, so I'm not doing a show that week. Sorry. It is what it is. Chris is a great interview, and he does some really good work over on his comic strip. I know Concerned American links to him over on the main page, and David from NC Renegades will link to him as well sometime, so go check him out. I'll post a link in the description. And I know he is doing his annual fundraiser right now, so he can use your support. So go over and check him out. And if you like what you see, if you haven't been reading him already, and you like what you see, give him a little donation. I'm sure he would appreciate it. I will give you a heads up on the interview, though. I had my recorder sitting a little too close to the speakerphone, and I was picking up that hum that you get off of a cell phone, that RF interference on my mics, so that means the quality is just not that great. I'm working to clean it up as best I can in post, so hopefully I can kind of push that buzzing sound down a little bit, and at least make it less obnoxious, or maybe the interference is only when I'm talking or something like that. So it's more important to hear what his response is than mine. But I'll see what I can do. I have to improve my interview setup, and I thought getting a standalone recorder would work better, but it did not really work well with the connections directly to the cell phone like I expected. I learned something as I was researching that, and it's possible, I don't know this for sure, but it's possible that Google has deliberately made it difficult to record calls from Android phones. I've seen some stuff written about some of the apps have been disabled so that you can't do call recording with these third-party apps, but you can record using the Google app on some phones in some places. And it may not work with some peripherals and whatnot. So I know you can get that to work. So I don't know for sure if this is actually what's going on here, or if I've just got some bad connectors or something like that. But what I do know is it did not work with my device. It would not allow me to use a splitter to connect a pair of headphones and a different output that would go into the mic jack of my recorder. It wouldn't work. It pushed out some kind of real odd beeping noise to the recorder, so you could kind of hear the voice and hear what was being said, but it just had this beeping over it the whole time. So I'll keep working on that and see what I can do and come up with a solution, because I want to do more shows like that and bring on some more guests, but there are just some challenges that I have to get around. And I know there's solutions out there, since, so many other shows do it. I just want to be able to do it in a way that protects the guests and myself, from with some anonymity and from technological intrusions and things like that. So I know there's a way to do it. Just got to keep working on it. So anyway. The topic for the show this week is the meltdown at the U.S. border. And I don't want to mince words here. This is the end of the nation that you knew and were born into. That's the old world. After today, this is the new one. It's officially over. And I say this because this is not this monumental change or shift that's happening in a single day. It's this backup. It's this pent up thing. But this is the final barrier coming down. The last portion, or the last position that was holding back the tide, is breached. And this, of course, began a long time ago, but but that ends today. And prior to today, Customs and Border Patrol under the Biden administration was officially talking about, a few thousand crossing the border and being detained on a daily basis. And they were being held or pushed back across the border to wait due to Title 42 provisions that were enacted by Trump under the COVID pandemic. Those provisions come to an end today, and this administration has made it known far and wide that the gates are literally open and no one is going to stop them except to get their names and have them sign a piece of paper. The estimate that I saw today in an article was that there are 400,000 people waiting to cross the border today. Now, I suspect that number is higher, and they're giving us some kind of low estimate to kind of soften the blow. But even then, 500,000 people waiting and crossing in a week, that's unsustainable, and it could be more. The system that these people will be seeking out can't sustain that kind of surge or that kind of load. They were not designed that. Just from a practical standpoint, you can't deal with that many people all at once, especially when that's not the end of it. Millions will come, and the end goal apparently is that all of the world's people are entitled to live within the United States. There's no end to the number of poor, impoverished people that can fit in our boat, according to this theory. We can just take them all in. Our former country has literally become the psycho wine ant who takes in every homeless pet that she can find. And that's not just a clever analogy, it's stark raving reality. We're hoarding trash and garbage and anything else we think might one day be useful, and we might use those 7,000 tons of plastic and cardboard for a project. We just need to put them over there with that pile of old newspapers and Tupperware. Just clear out a little path to the bedroom and a space on the bed so that we can sleep. We can scoop all those turds up later and put them in the backyard. We don't need to worry about taking showers or running the AC since we can't afford that anyway. We have to spend all of our money on the little fur babies because no one else is going to take care of them. It's sad, really. We don't even have daughters that will get some TV producer to come save us for their TV show. No one is going to stop this. We're going to end up collapsed on the floor, and the pets will eat our face off when the food runs out. That's just the reality of the situation. For more than a decade, you've been bombarded with this meme of the zombie apocalypse. And I'm glad for that, honestly. I don't know if that was done for a reason so that it prepared you for what was going to happen, because I think it's a benefit that we were prepared for it, or if it was done as a response to, Katrina and that imagery that we saw, and it was done to try to invoke that kind of fear that people had at that time. But either way, I'm glad we got that, because this is that zombie apocalypse. A sea wave of people massing into the country and crashing upon the cities and towns around those cities and inundating them with humanity that cannot be provided for. It's insanity. And as I said, this has been going on for a while, and it only slowed down due to the pandemic. It never really stopped, but it did decrease. And then the conditions got worse for everyone around the world, and now the drive to get out of their home countries is even more emphatic, and so they come by the thousands. And our resident in the White House and his administration, not only have they decided to do nothing, they've encouraged it, they've promoted it, and have done nothing to impede it. They've abdicated the very basic principle of their office and the oath that they took to that office and to the people. You can't get any more fundamental here. This is deliberate failure to do the most basic duty that you were in office to do, which is to defend the United States and provide security to the nation. We are guaranteed a Republican form of government, and they swore an oath to do that. And they're not doing that. The gates to the fences and the walls along the border are literally open and no one is guarding it. Now let's go back in history for a moment. In ancient times, there were principles that governed the lives of everyone. All peoples had to deal with this. If you did not guard your culture and your people well, they would be destroyed. Your nation would be invaded, your people would be enslaved, your resources taken, your women taken, and your culture would vanish. It was that simple. The rule of steel was in play. Might made right. And people gathered together in cities not just to be near one another and make trading easier. They gathered together to make defending themselves easier. They put up protective walls and they posted guards all day and night, every day on those walls. And the task and duty was so important that falling asleep as a guard was punishable by death. Leaving the gates open and unlocked was considered the highest form of treason. Remember your Iliad. The Greeks can't break the walls of Troy, so they craft the Trojan horse to sneak inside and open the gates. And forever else, that has become a meme that represents, fooling your way inside of something. Which, come to think of it, why are the condoms called Trojans? You would think, and it seems like sneaking your way in should be named after the Greeks. I don't know. Anyway, the point I'm making here is that this is, again, the most basic role of national leaders. If you can't control the borders of your nation, then you don't have a nation. You have a collection of people occupying an area. It is how leadership is tied to the land. In the Arthurian legends, when Arthur is growing weak and he's being assailed by Morgana and Mordred, the land grows weak with him. It becomes barren and decayed, and it is only when he drinks from the Grail that the vitality of the realm returns. It's an intrinsic thing, you just can't get around this. This is what national leadership means. There's no excuse for this. And therefore we have absolute certainty that this is being done deliberately. Our leaders want this, and they need this. At least you think I'm piling this, all on this administration or the left. There's no one in the right who's talking about shutting down migration completely. People on the right are saying, we can take them all in, we just need to, follow the rules and do it more slowly. And that's not the answer either. This is also an abdication of duty. Letting them in, just doing it more slowly, is still letting them in. And the truth is that they all want them to be here illegally. They need illegals because it creates an environment and a situations where the illegals can be preyed upon and used, and they have very little legal recourse. And the recourse that they do have can be taken advantage of and be taken from the position that they are, poor, helpless refugees, and thus they're somehow entitled to more than natural-born citizens of the country. And no one in the government is willing to stop this. Which is something that we could deal with were it not for one other thing. And not only are they unwilling to stop it, they're actively doing everything they can to prevent anyone else from stopping it either. There are state governors who at least say they want to do something about it, but they're not acting because they're being told by the feds that legal action will be taken against them if they do. It comes down to that clink of coins, as it always does. The feds say they will withhold funding that the states get, so that if a governor decides to, for example, mobilize the National Guard to go secure the border, then they'll lose all their federal highway funds that they're being given, or they'll lose education funds, they'll lose grants and just agreements all across the board. So the governors are paralyzed. At least that's what they say. That's what they tell us. They say their hands are somewhat tied. Now, I believe that there are ways around that, and that the governors are just as spineless and willing to allow it to happen for their own personal gain as well. They talk the game, but they are simply professing their loyalty to the city while the walls are still standing. And once the breach is open and the horde is pouring in, they'll just toss a robe over themselves and scurry out the back with their treasure looking for another place to hide. Because every one of them are filthy, stinking cowards. Now, there's a line from an old Irish song, and it goes, poor Wexford stripped naked hung high on a cross, with her heart pierced by traitors and slaves. And Wexford is a city in Ireland. It fell at one point in some countless fight that has happened in Ireland. But at any rate, I feel that line. I really do. But there comes a time in a conflict that you know that the day is lost and your chance of outright victory has slipped away. And that the day itself is sliding towards ruin. And all you can do is hope to pull from things, the best outcome that you possibly can given the circumstances. You may still manage to survive and press on, but you will forever be marked by what has happened. And I think we're at that moment. The day is lost, but we may manage to pull from this something that we can go forward with, because the war is not over. And it's possible that in the wake of this, our enemies will have sown the seeds of their undoing. And sometimes you have to lose something in order to know what needs to be done to win it all later on. I believe that's where we stand, and I intend to work as hard as I can to manage to pull some measure of promise and, dare I say, hope for what lies ahead. Well, let's all think on that one this week. That's all I got time for today. Like and subscribe. Come see us over on Gab and the Mothership. And I will see you on the next episode.